Yes, we are
Woo!
back. We are back. We were technically back last week, weren't we, mate? But
We were.
this is more official because we've got a esteemed guest joining us today, which is always nice, isn't it?
It is. It's been
So
a while
welcome.
since we've had some people in, so
Yeah, it has. It's just been me and you, hasn't it, mate?
yeah, it has, and it's good to get a third musketeer in every now and again. So
It is, and before people start saying anything, no, we didn't plan this, and no, we're not sat next to each other. For everybody who's freaking out about COVID right now, Liam and I actually we didn't plan these tops. I was like,
well, it's the same tops, and now we've got the same lights behind us as well. Like it's kind of like we've got this purple vibe.
We're just becoming the same, aren't we? We're becoming the same. Yeah. But it's good. It's good to be back, and welcome to everybody who is tuning in live or on demand. If you are time traveling right now, Fresh Friday is back, as we just said, and today's going to be a great one. Like we said, we have got a guest who's going to come on, and today it is all about the differences between a virtual event or a production, as our guest calls them, and what we refer to as webinar. And I say it with a heavy heart because webinar's been around since the 90s and it has served a lot of us very well. But as Liam just said, do you get a little bit of a sad feeling when I say the word webinar, Liam? I get the impression you do.
100%. Webinars came around in 1996. Like, that's mad. That's 24 years ago. And, you know, a phone 24 years ago is very different to what a phone is now. So it's kind of, you look at these things and go, right, well, surely something must change. Like, we can't keep doing the same old stuff. So,
and we're going to change it, people. It's 100%. Time to get fresh. That is what we're talking about today. How we're going to... There's a few things that you can put in, and our guest today is going to help us talk about all that and much more. I think we just got Damien Reed. I get the same feeling when I hear role play. Yeah.
Oh, it's the same thing. Isn't it? It's the same thing.
Got to do that. Yeah. Got to do that. But there are some easy steps. There are some simple things that you can put into your webinars or your live streams, let's call them, to upskill them to a live stream, to a virtual event, to something that's a little bit more special. And our guest today, Mr. Mark Masters, is the author of The Content Revolution, which is a fantastic book, which we might talk about as well. But today, we're here to talk about how brands can create virtual events, not webinars. So we're going to be talking about what a virtual event is, how to create a successful virtual event, what the ROI is, like what's the whole point in a company or a brand doing that. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, Mr. Mark Masters. Welcome to Fresh Friday.
Good morning. We all good?
We're doing
better
well,
now.
Mate. We're doing well.
Better now.
Better to have you here. Better to have you
Then
here.
it is a pleasure, Gareth. It's a pleasure, Liam, to be a part of this. Hey, let's look at this now. The way I'm addressing you guys. I'm not looking down at something like that, showing my bald head. Looking at you guys, addressing the room. This is how we do it, everybody.
This is how we do it.
That's how we do it. On a Fresh Friday, so we appreciate it. And increasingly, Mark, I'm having to find myself not tip my head down because it's becoming a bit of an X-ray on top when the light shines on. I've got.
Don't keep it. Listen, nurture it, love it. Listen, you're doing all right. You're doing all right. It just happens at some point. We've got to embrace it, like me. And I'm looking at you guys. Liam's got that lustrous head of hair there. Wow. Jealous.
Annoyingly. And to be honest, like your guest said yesterday on You Are the Media, let it go. Let it go. Do you know what I mean?
It's not going to happen. Sticking around.
Let it go. Let it flow.
No swearing now. I'll try not to swear.
No, you're good. Yeah, we don't mind.
Yeah. Like we said, let it go. Let it go. Kate Stradden's welcome to the stream. Damien, welcome to the stream. I hope everyone's well. Mark, we give you a very brief introduction there. Obviously, we have been introduced to you through one of our previous guests, Mr. Douglas Burdett, because you've been on his podcast. But for the guys who are watching, maybe give them a little summary about who you are and what you do at You Are the Media.
Yeah, so I'm based on a sunny south coast down here in Poole. It's a sunny, it's an okay, nice crisp autumnal day, and I started basically a side project that grew into a big thing. You Are the Media. You Are the Media is a marketing and media training and learning community. Brings people together, and there is a weekly email. So it started back in 2013. This is my little scrapbook of ideas that started as an email. 2016, we created live events. You Are the Media. Called You Are the Media Lunch Club. We started a conference as well in 2018. We launched in Bristol as well this year, so not too far away from Liam. And then, yeah, obviously all this bad stuff that happened. The thing that we specialize in is, well, how it's all about creation. It's all about how we can find our voice and how we can be resourceful with the space and build the spaces that are ours. So at the end of the day, people think, hey, you're really good. I don't want to go anywhere else. And that's what You Are the Media was all about. There's a heavier emphasis on community, but there's a focus on learning, and it's pulled together via the mix of this pulse that has kept going. I write every week. There's an email every week. So I found that momentum that hasn't let up yet. I haven't run out of steam. When I run out of steam is when it all stops. But I'm loving it, and it's a privilege to be a part of it with a load of really cool and lovely people who are a part of the You Are the Media community.
It was so good because, of course, we had the pleasure of joining the Lunch Club yesterday, and the guest you had on, Mark Ritson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Honest to God, I've never cried so much. And crying in a good way. I was absolutely loving it. So, yeah.
Why was that? Why was that? Was this because it's like, this is so kind of, I've never heard this in kind of a worky kind of businessy space before, someone that was just going off on one.
Yeah, he offered like a really unique perspective to me anyway. Like, for example, he was like having a chat about these big people up on stage and like, you know, like Gary V and all this type of stuff. And he was like, you know, saying like, oh, they're on the stage, they're not in the real world doing this stuff. And I was like, that is like so true. Like, and he's already had a bottle of wine and he's effing and blinding, and I love that type of stuff. I love the authenticity of it all, you know?
So I know obviously he's quite vocal about those types of people, and, you know, they're there for a reason. You're Simon, you start with whys and everything else, but I know he's quite vocal about these people that have built these spaces of thinking we should all be following them. So what I did, I made sure I prodded him and I poked him. So we would kind of so I kept with it. So we
Poke
could
the bear.
But it was yeah, it's great. It's great to have him on all the way from Tasmania. We normally have it on at lunchtime, so we had it in the morning. Probably not a fan of having it earlier in the day, but it certainly was thought-provoking. And yeah, that's the B2B Gordon Ramsay right there.
Yeah, it was amazing.
When he said he needed a shower after going on Twitter, I thought that's the kind of guy I like. I feel exactly the same. It's such a dirty place. Like,
sorry to the people watching on Twitter.
Well, sorry, Twitter, but you guys are filthy. I've got to admit, it's well. Yeah, but You Are the Media, great concept. The name as well. When I seen the name, it's so important, and I think, you know, it's got a dotted line into what we're going to talk about today. Like, everybody, doesn't matter what size you are, whether you're a huge brand, like we work with some large brands, or whether you're a small company. Like, this idea, and I suppose it's kind of spawns from your book as well, about how you need to kind of embody that mindset. Like, you have to be more than just a good person at your craft these days if you want to survive like this digital age. You have to be a media company. You know, you have to publish what you do. You have to be your own copywriter, your editor. You have to put out videos. Like, how important is that in your opinion, Mark? Like, what's the whole driver behind becoming the media?
Yeah. So the driver for me, so basically, let's just, everything that I'm talking about here is via doing it. I've lived my life with this human cannonball approach, right? To try things out and to see what's bombed, and to also find the opportunity to share what has worked. And I feel that's very important. And so that, listen, people talk a big thing about, I don't want to go Brenny Brown and everyone, but we talk about vulnerability. And during the lunch club, it was Doug Kessler talked about, he said, look, vulnerable people are the confident people. And so it comes down to, I believe, that we share this perspective or a space within our marketplace that we believe in, that not necessarily everybody is talking about. Maybe stuff that's from the heart, maybe things that you think that is broken or the areas that need to be challenged. For instance, on my side is the belief that, look, why do we always have to be, Google aren't going to help us, Facebook don't care about our businesses. So why can't we become taking on this mindset that is audience first? And when I talk about audience, it doesn't mean to say what people come to a comedy show or something else. But by building an audience is by getting people, and this is my big lesson from this year, is the importance to build a space before you need it. So when everything went very dark back in March, because there was there was a community, there were people there, I said, well, let's kind of move online. And that's the opportunity for all of us, is to find this space, is to put our little flag in the ground and saying, right, who wants to come and join in? But because we picked up on there about, Vaynerchuk and everybody else that talks about to work 26 hours a day and everything else, we can't. It's not sustainable. But we have to be okay and start from zero, because over time, people gradually come on board. And this is all about, we're picking up on this yesterday, chatting to Mark Ritson. He was talking about a much bigger level. But there is this time now where we are today that comes down to leadership. And it comes down to this thing of persistence and this thing of being in it for the long game. It's like with Fresh Fridays, just being in it with the long game. And it'd be lovely when you look back at the end of 2021 to think, wow, we've come on loads as well. It's how we develop professionally, it's how we develop personally. And it's even better when other people come on for the ride.
I think people also get a little bit let down, don't they? They're like, they try it for a few weeks, nothing happens, and then they just give up. And it's like, yeah, it's never going to work. But it's the same thing. Like, I've seen so many like live streamers on Twitch and this type of thing. You've got to keep going. You've got to have this consistency. You've got to have this schedule. You've got to have the right mindset, the grind, essentially. And, eventually you'll get there. But people just going, oh, I've done it for 3 weeks and no one's been here. And what's the point? And this
Mark Schaefer wrote Known a couple of years ago. So he put a time on it. So from somebody saying, like, well, how long can I get from being whoever I am? Maybe I'm the person that spends a life going to network and events and not much else. And if I'm thinking, well, how can I get people to respect me and this thing, I guess, trust as well. So he said it takes 18 months. He put a figure on it. I'm only backing up what I read, what is there in Known. He puts us around about an 18-month window to create consistently, produce, create, and distribute, and bringing people back to you again as well. And you have to do that repetitively. And I believe we don't have to have bottomless pits of money, because our trade-off is time. And that's a really tough thing. Yes, for instance, my trade-off is I write every week. It used to be like I wouldn't watch the football on a Monday night. But now I believe that writing late on a Monday night isn't good for you. And I've just found a better rhythm that goes with it. Again, that's the longer that you're in it, the more you can tweak and find ways that work for you and works for other people as well. But Mark said it takes around about 18 months, just digging deep.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think just having the mindset that you are going to commit to that amount of time is the first step, because once you've set that as a goal, you can't turn back on it. It's just, you just keep going and you do see the results. So anybody out there, now is the time. We've just been told there's going to be another lockdown. We've just started in another lockdown, and we've seen phenomenal growth in live streams, in content creation, and that will definitely serve you no matter what size your business on the back end of this. Like, once you've gone,
and we're doing podcasts as well. Mark Ritson, not a fan of podcasts, I see yesterday.
Yes. Whatever
so yes,
your
we
niche
all
is,
do
go
podcasts.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, before we jump into the meat of it, Mark, we do have a section which is newly designed. So first off, we take our hats off to you for being the first gent who has jumped on Fresh Friday, rolled up his sleeve and thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to jump in and take on the quickfire round, or the fresh fire round as we've now rebranded it. So Mark, before, well, here we go.
Drum roll.
Forgot about the
This is
the
good. I like
transition.
your production efforts, boys. I'm in awe of
We're
this,
in
what
the-
you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. So we're now in the fresh fire round. This is where it gets a little bit serious. You are
God,
the first guest to do this, so we expect you to be number one on the leaderboard at the end of this, Mark. I've got to admit.
I hope so too.
I hope so too. I hope so
A
too.
little bit.
Oh.
All right.
We're going to
Let's
give
have
you a
it.
choice between 1 and 8, and then we are going to ask you 10 questions, and you have to answer these in the shortest amount of time as possible. So you're against the clock.
All right.
And then at the end, we're going to tell you what your score was, what time you got, and then you're going to go on our leaderboard. So,
Which we don't
sound
have
good?
yet.
No, we don't actually.
We're trying to get a physical leaderboard. It's like
Gotta-
it's
I've
going to
gotta-
go on a pen and paper to begin with.
B2B Top
It's
Gear
toilet
all the
roll.
way.
Yeah.
This is it. This is where it all started first, Mark. The first fresh fire round. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
So
Which
first
number
off,
would you
pick a
like?
Number
4.
between 4.
Oh.
Yes.
Ooh.
Tough one.
Sorry to say that, Mike. Have a go if you want.
Okay, Liam, you ready with the countdown?
Ready with the clock.
Good stuff. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Name your favorite book.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Do you prefer rain or snow?
Rain.
What brand are you a fan of?
Apple.
Do you think people control their own destiny?
Yes.
When I say fresh, what do you say?
Friday!
Ding, 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 ding. If you were a superhero, what powers would you have?
I would press the traffic lights all day.
Sales or marketing?
Marketing.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you cook?
It's a 1 at best.
Can you solve a Rubik's Cube?
No, I can't.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Frank Skinner.
There we go. There we go. Put a hold on
Yeah.
that. And I think, Liam, what was the score? What was the final score for Mr. Mark Martin?
59 seconds. Smash through 10 questions in 59 seconds.
Can I set the benchmark, eh? So someone else is going to say, right, I'm going to get this loser. He's going to be like, eating my dust, whoever's next up.
The thing is as well, the questions change every week. So if they think they can copy your questions, it's just not going to happen.
Number 4.
Why did I say
putting a-
Apple? Why did I say Apple? I should have
I don't know either, Mark. Why did you say
I
Apple?
do it again for another record. And I should have thought of some local artisan company that's going through this rocky road at the minute. And I said Apple. Sorry, everybody.
Well,
I
Mark,
don't need to apologise.
It's in Apple.
you'll be
Anyway.
happy to
Maybe
know.
I could say no. There is a window company locally called Apple. So I think they went. I think they went to liquidation. I can stick with them.
You can still be a fan. You can still be a fan, even if they don't exist. But Mark, the good news is, despite your disappointment on some of your answers, you're actually in pole position. You're on number 1, Mr. Mark Masters. So well done.
That.
Need to cue
Brilliant.
an applause.
Cue in the applause. Yeah, we can hear them. We can hear them in the world of social media. Well, hopefully that's got you warmed up, because we are going to delve into today's topic, how we can help people out there shift from this, and we have been a bit harsh, webinar, to a virtual event. And I know we can call these different things. So before we kick off, let's get your definition of this, because I know we've all got slightly different definitions. On one bucket, we've got a traditional presentation or a webinar. We've referred to it today. We're calling that the old school. And on the other side, we've got a more modern take on that, which we are calling a virtual event, or a production, as you've called it as well, Mark, which is the new school. In your opinion, like, what's the differences between them two? Liam's just,
The different, right. The easiest way that I could describe this is one is creating something that is recognizable, Yeah, which is our webinars, which is stuff that many of us are used to. People join and then someone presents on a screen, but it's something that we've been used to in terms of screens that we see in front of them. There's less participation. There's very rarely any emotion. But when we talk about like things such as this or creating live video for online, as I call it, as you said there, production, and this kind of thing of events on places like Zoom, and it all comes down to recreating what has already been done. So when you recreate what has already been done, you find little nuances that have never been done before. Maybe they are ways that engage with your audience more, or maybe there is. Listen, I've discovered last week, I think, called Mentimeter, and that's how you create live polling within occasions that you do as well. You're finding ways. So the difference is, one is something that we've been used to before. The other way is a means of raising interactivity, raising energy levels, and also using these spaces to our advantage. Is that all right?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously agree on this. When we first reached out to you, obviously we've been on You Are the Media as well, and there is a key differentiator between these two, and I think it is them building blocks. Like, how do you engage an audience? Like, what is the difference between someone sat there being force fed a presentation slide by slide with the same monotone voice, the same pattern, never mixing it up, never going off the track, God forbid. And then there is a key difference between an organic conversation, something that takes its own route, and something that, it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just got these essential building blocks, like introducing people, putting little sections in your event, making it an actual event, and putting these building blocks. You don't go to a gig. This is how I think of, and the band just comes on, plays the exact same music like they do on their album, and then you go home. You go and have a few drinks, you have a chat, you meet up with people. There might be a pre-show, there's an after show, there's different things that go on in between, and I think people just need to think about things like that.
Yeah, pick it up here, Gareth. Is that the big word? What you've talked about here is how we find ways to engage with our audience, rather than just the simple things of reading off a script or a piece of paper in front of us. Is that because the great thing about where we've all been this year is if we're delivering, if we're speaking on Zoom or any other live space, is that we're great at cutting corners. Cutting corners being that we have our piece of paper in there and no one can see us. But we do know if we are reading or if we are not finding a way that brings the audience or people in front of us closer to us. But on the other side, I understand it, because when we're presenting, this is the thing I'm trying to get over with myself. It's really difficult to read the room, and our own anxieties can get the better of us. Yeah. So like, it's silent, and it's just you talking into a camera, into your screen. And it's tough to know if someone's smiling or thinking of something when the bad side of you is thinking that someone's on the other side and they're tweeting or they're just looking through their email. It's difficult, but on the other side, we're talking about here, it all comes down to the engagement we have with other people, and we can still sell. We can still say, oh, this is not just some altruistic world that we are a part of, but we've all had a really tough year. So why can't we raise the levels, emotion, and everything else, and just make? This is why I'm thinking as well. You talk here about productions, is that we start to think of what we're doing here, like what you're doing here with Fresh Fridays, as TV.
It's so true. Like, I think it's kind of like with our history of like being trainers, like we see so many people like just pull up a PowerPoint, start clicking through. There's no engagement. They follow the notes. As you said, they physically have their paper in front of them in the room. And it's just like, it's so bizarre. And you're right to think of it like, it's almost like having these sections. Like when we were on the lunch club yesterday, the section at the end, when you're all having your sing along, that's like that bit, that's that entertaining bit in that segment. And it's thinking of it like that rather than just this slide, see you later.
Can I pick up on that?
So much. Yeah.
Can I pick up on what you say there, Liam? And again, this is only from living in this live lab. Like what you've just done by asking questions, is that if because we always hear this thing this year, this word that we never heard 12 months ago, this thing of Zoom fatigue, and it's very real. And I totally understand why it can become overawing, and we have had enough of it with speakers hiding away in the screen in a tiny place, or there is the tech that hampers the delivery as well. But I know that people are forgiving. But this means of finding ways to break things up. Listen, not just from my camp, but I'm seeing it with other people as well. So Alan Braithwaite, we're from Yellow Tuxedo. So what they do on their live stream is that they have a magician. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Is it's simple things that we can do to break up the flow. It just so happens. Listen, I'd love other people to do this stuff. Is that we have to find ways to break up the flow. For instance, there's a lady called Fleur Cook, and she introduces a section called winning towards the beginning. And winning was a way that when during the first lockdown was that people would come on and share just the joy and fun they were having in their life in a pretty dark place. It could be having a decent haircut. It could be from the wife or husband or boyfriend, girlfriend, or it could be a daughter or son had learned to ride a bike. And there was these little distractions. And what we did as well was that we know it's been a gloomy year, so we sing at the end. And this way to break things up is when I talk about, it's like creating TV guys, but I don't just say, hey, create TV guys, it's brilliant. It's like, what have you done, Mike? You done bugger all. And I'm saying, well, yeah, I've tried to figure it out. Not all of it's worked. So we did singing at the beginning, but singing doesn't work. But it's like going to a pub and you've had a pint, but then when it comes to the end, you've had 4 or 5 beers and a bottle of wine, and everyone's up for the sing song. And we do that at the end of every lunch club. We're going to be doing Do They Know It's Christmas? Look, everyone's doing it first for the last one, our Christmas one in December.
I absolutely love it. And especially where you said earlier on, like your approach is this like human cannibal approach of like just trying these things, testing these things. Like when Gareth said to me, he's like, they do a sing song. I was like, no, they don't, do they? And I sat there and I was actually like, this is actually quite fun.
This is ridiculous. That's the thing, because it's ridiculous. And everything has a very serious point to it. And I know that a lot of people will be like, well, what am I walking into here? I mean, is he going to make us stand up and do some solo? But the reason it's so ridiculous that synchronized singing on Zoom is just, it's just so stupid. But it's this ability to let our guard down. Yeah, we can still be serious. We can still be professional. We can still get a point across. But at the same time, it's the humanity that brings us all together. And it's all these little quirks. And it's by understanding that we've all had a really torrid time. So why do you want to sit through another presentation that's looking at how to get good email headlines, how to use Facebook advertising? Because what we're doing as well, we've also commoditized the coronavirus. Companies are stepping forward as well. All they want to do is sell their wares. Yeah. And that becomes very off-putting for people as well. But you can still sell your wares if you put a different angle to it that invites interaction, that heightens the way of enjoyment, and that is a way that brings us all together. Because no one wants to be constantly doing this stuff because they're giving so much time. Because what happens is burnout. If you're just relentlessly doing stuff, and you're getting nowhere with it, it starts to tire you out. But if you find these means that strikes a chord with, Seth Godin wrote a really good article 10, 11 years ago. It was called First 10. First 10, it was saying that you don't need loads and loads of people. There's a famous article called 1,000 Fans by Kevin Kelly. That's what we need, 1,000 people to step up. It was about the music industry, to buy our records, to buy the posters, turn up for gigs. But in 2011, I think it was, or maybe even before that, Seth Godin wrote First 10. And he's by saying, all we need are 10 people that are going to enjoy the work that we create and that we share, with the intention that they will tell other people, so they come on. That comes on board. So that whole thing of reach starts from having something that you believe in and having something that can strike that chord in somebody else.
It's so true. And I think there's so many references to that, about having this small tight group of people, fans, you know, who essentially will champion your business and make them, you know, feel special, and they will return so much more. And it's all about giving to them people. You know what I mean? Like you can't just expect them 10 people to sprout out of nothing. You know, you've got to nurture your community, you've got to build a following, and by doing so, they will see you through the tough times. It's so important that people and businesses realize that.
I get, do you know what? And that's the thing that's kept you and the media going. The people that are a part of it. And okay, I name drop Mark Schaefer again in Marketing Rebellion that he published last year. It was the thing about how you become fans of your fans. And it was all about how other people do the market, your audience do the marketing for you. And so when things were bad, and when we said, right, let's start figuring out how this can work when we go on Zoom, people then would have stepped forward and done the post that they enjoyed. That's the reason we do the singing and things like that. So people can take the photos and the little videos. It all helps. We find these little segments that invites people to share. Like we have little guests on, as I mentioned, in our winning section. And you want people to feel good. You want them to tell other people. And that's how it starts to become how the return starts coming back to us, is when other people do the marketing for us. So we don't necessarily have to think about putting a load of budget here in Facebook ads with everybody else, because we've built the people on our side. And when I say built, people that enjoy, there's a sense of enjoyment, so they feel okay to then go onto LinkedIn. I was a part of this. I love that. And that's why the audience and the people that we have on our side is an absolute privilege. Every subscriber, everyone that subscribes to the You Are the Media community gets a video from me. So I use a piece of software called Bonjoro, and I will use that, and I will thank people personally. And it's just a way that I think that's where we're going, is that how we can close the net and bring people closer to us. And they may not necessarily buy from us, but if they don't necessarily buy from us, then maybe they could still be out there and rallying the cause, because we've created this awesome festival and we've pitched a tent and no one else is in the fields next to us. Look at that, coming out of the analogies on a Friday.
You
Preach,
honestly,
Mark Masters, preach.
You honestly need to have a conversation with Yellow Tuxedo, because they do Baylily Bell tents. They do these tents.
Yes,
you need to get yourself a tent. Yeah.
Physical one.
I've name dropped him. I've name dropped Alan once.
Yeah.
There's
another one
today.
We are racking up them click-throughs anyway for Yellow Tuxedo today. I'll tell you that. We're on the payroll. Talking about fans, Mark, I know Liam's got his eye on chat. We have got a couple of shout-outs we're going to give in a short second. But anybody who's watching right now, do us a favour. Smash that share button, because we do want to get this out. We're not doing this for a laugh. We want people far and wide during lockdown and beyond to all benefit from what we're discussing today. Mark's already been giving some great tips on how you can spice up your digital presence and create virtual events, productions, instead of these dreaded webinars or your bog standard Zoom calls, let's call them. Now, Liam, who have we got in chat? Have we got anything we want to shout out?
Yeah, we do. We've got Katie Straddens is in chat saying, look at you two lighting up. We're all lit up. Yeah. We've also got Damien Reed. He said he really enjoyed the traffic light power that you said that you wish you had, Mark. And then we've also got Geordie Lass in chat as well. She says that she totally agrees with like adding in this connection over some of the video calls and elements of fun and interaction. And yeah, so it's really good. So yeah, keep chat coming in. We'll do a couple of shouts. If you've got any questions, we'll make sure we get them over to Mark as well. Yeah,
and Geordie Lass, congratulations as well, by the way. She's just set out and started her own business during a pandemic. Power to you, girl. Well done. Well done to you.
What does Geordie Lass do? What business is that? Do you know what Geordie Lass has got up and running?
Yeah, so she's just moved into marketing. So she's we know her from a previous role that we had our days at Microsoft when we were in the training team there, and she's really kind of pushed herself and gone out there and taken the world by the scruff of its neck, and that's what we promote.
Good on you, Geordie Lass.
Good on you.
So, Mark, we've just discussed, I suppose, in our discussions there around what these things are that can elevate your events to make them more virtual events than your standard webinars. Just to recap on that, we're talking about engaging the audience. We're talking about creating memorable experiences you was referencing. And I suppose a simple way that you identified as well there is about these sections, these different sections that don't necessarily have to be about you and your company. They're just kind of there to make people feel good. Is there anything else you want to add to that before we kind of move on? Is there any more essential components in the mix?
Yeah. Okay. So really essential things that have worked for us, so other people can use as well. So there's two steps. There's stuff to do before things happen, and there's things after. So there's one that's all about you have to create the build up. Yeah. So long gone is just a generic email that we send out to people expecting them to turn up, because we won't. And I realize that you've got to keep on at this. Yeah. I think LinkedIn events is really good, because LinkedIn events, we can use that. LinkedIn events is like puffing our chest out, because we can set up our events and people say they're going to attend, just click, and you use that as social proof. Because you can say, look, there's 50, there's 80 people that are going to be coming, so you should come too. But you have to create the build up. You have to, if you're putting something on, you have to keep with it. And then you have to pay attention to the people who are coming. For instance, everyone that books to come to you at the Media Online, what I'll do is I'll thank them in an email, and I'll include the calendar invite. This is a really simple tip that not everybody does. If someone's booked, send them the email thanking them, but make sure you put in a calendar invite, because then just to make sure that they've got the prompt that's coming up 48 hours or so. It's just a simple way to acknowledge that you appreciate someone else's time that they're going to be spending with you. Again, we're finding these touch points to continually reach out. And then when it happens, you're talking about here about these ways of breaking things up and everything else. So it's the simple things as well when things happen, such as looking into the camera lens, and even look how we gesticulate. I'm full of that. I used to be that, arms out everywhere, but now I've learned how to bring it more into the space that's in front of us. I
think Liam's helped as well with his slimline camera. He's chopped your arms off, Mark. So we do apologise.
Oh no, I'm bringing it proper.
Maybe we can be Mark's arms. If you used to.
That would be funny, wouldn't it? If you do that, like some kind of if we continued on,
the other way.
It's this way.
So we have to. Those people that come to attend, for instance, there is a small fee for people to come to You Are the Media. Yeah, so there is a small. It costs £10. But you want people that come to your events to feel like VIPs. And if someone's paid, I will send to them the video to watch back. I don't make any of it public. I like this ephemeral nature that you have to be there. I might share a little clip. But it's how we can make the people that come attend the things that we put on feel special. And by sending a video, because when we have You, the Media Online, there's a lot of chat that's happening, and there's lots of stuff that's going on as well. But maybe it's something to give someone. It allows someone to give their full attention to something they might have missed. For instance, I always watch back, so I'll be definitely watching back. I'll be counting every swear. Someone did a tally chart yesterday as well about how many. It's like little pencil lines every time Mark Ritson swore.
I do that.
It was well over 30. Let's put it that way. But the main thing is that how we just raise our energy levels. It's just the way that my human nature is just the way that I am. But one of the most challenging things to accomplish is, I know it's really difficult, is that how we start to raise these energy levels, because it's a way that transmits from where you're sitting to someone else. There you go, the hand thing now, from where you're sitting into someone else's room.
It's so true. And I think that bit that you said about making people feel good as well, like you've got to have that connection. And by doing that, you kind of feel like you're there with them, and the way shows get opened up and, that energy sort of comes across. And talking about making people feel good, right? He's going to get another shout out. Yellow Tuxedo have just turned up. They're in, and they said, 3 legends in a row. Love it. Sorry we're late. Well, third shout out, Alan. Third shout out.
Oh, pampering to him. We were just pampering to him. It's missed.
And we pitched Bailey Bell tents. What?
It's one of them moments. You say the name 3 times and they show up. I think that's the way this works. So yeah.
Here's another thing. Here was another aside I just want to pick up on. Everyone is so hydrated this year, because all I ever see is everyone's got those really big bottles. I know you got a cup.
So true.
I see. Why can't I have these big bottles that everyone else, these flasks that everyone's drinking from? The world is hydrated in 2020, and that should be congratulated.
100%.
We were on a call the other day, and I was double fisting. I had 2 glasses of water on the go, and the guy was like, "That is the new thing. Like, I've never come across that." I was like, "Well, got to be prepared. You've got to stay hydrated." But that does mean you often have to leave the call quite early. So don't do that when you're creating virtual events. Just stick to the 1 glass.
Unless you have a wireless headset. Just saying. Make sure to mute.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, what you said there, I think it's 100% true. And one of the things we often say, and this is when goes back to when we did physical events, you know, does anybody remember them days? Like, we used to go there and always have this mindset that people might not remember what you said. They might not really care how you said it, but they'll definitely remember how you made them feel. And it's an old quote, I know that, but it's just so true. And that is a fundamental building block for any interaction you have with people, be that digitally, virtually, be that face to face. You might not remember someone's name, but you always like, oh yeah, I kind of like that guy. I got on with that person. I remember how they made me feel, and I always think that.
But this is an interesting point. This thing here, Gareth, of personality and how there is no hiding place, and I guess it takes time. For instance, I've only got used to this year when we had our first events. You know, we've had the Zoom bombing, sending out wrong links to people, and this thing about you talk there about how you make people feel is now becoming such a very important aspect of how we build our businesses and how we create personality. And here's another thing, and this is John Espirian. Name dropping somebody else. John Espirian talks about in his book,
I'm a fan.
Content DNA, is that this thing of congruence and how we present ourselves in one place has to be exactly the same in another. So imagine if we met in a physical environment and you'd be like, Mark was a bit of a bastard. That kind of way that just went a bit, nobody gave him a second of his time. Which is why you talk about how you make people feel. This is such an opportunity now to present our ways in a way that can be upbeat, that can have a message. It can still be serious, but has a belief system in place. And if you can replicate that, and you can put that on LinkedIn, you can put that in every social place or every place where there is a commentary, then that comes into this place of personal branding that can really help us all.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think people just need to get started. That's the key message that we're going out there. So we've covered quite a lot there, Mark, to be fair. We've talked about the differences between a webinar. I keep calling it that.
No.
Sorry to anybody who's a fan of webinars. We're just using that as our kind of terminology. A traditional kind of presentation, let's call it that, and a virtual event. We've talked about the building blocks, and we've also spoken about some essential components that people should include to help grow them and the brand. And the one thing that I do want to come back to is it's all good. And, you know, I think we were talking about this yesterday on You Are the Media around what's the point? Like, you know, if it's not going to help us, like what are the benefits, in your opinion, of making this transition or even making virtual events in the first place? Is it going to help businesses?
Right. So again, listen, I'm going to have to say this along with Mark Ritson, is that it's a way of commercializing. Yeah. So who is to say that what starts as a Fresh Friday becomes a membership community or something else in 2021, 22? So the benefits to our business is that how this one, you can monetize directly from it, or the other side is how you can indirectly make money from it. For instance, I know we keep on referring back to Mark Ritson yesterday, but that's because we were there. And so he was, throwing the medium of podcasting down the pan.
It's like we're doing a webinar right now.
Oh no! But I get it because many people listen. I don't want to be in a world where I have an expensive hobby. Yeah, and I realized a mistake a few years ago was that you set up something. Listen, it's maybe something like an estate agent that ends up doing a podcast on eating well or something such as that. Whatever we use, it still has to relate back to how we pay the mortgage. And things such as what we're trying to achieve here is, one, we build audience, have people come into our side, but we still have to think about means of how we sell. And that's why we can use video. For instance, as I said, people pay to come to You the Media, but that is also a means of finding the ways that connect the dots of other things. Yeah, which is why I mentioned at the beginning is You the Media is emphasizes how people build space and build connection and build audience. But when you build audience and people come to your side, when you're selling something, it feels easier, because you're not trying to coerce people. You're not trying to coax them, because you are continually demonstrating the value in what you do and what you believe in. And that should help and assist other people's. I want to put this stuff on. I tell you now, boys, we have a conference. We've had a conference since 2018. I'm carrying over a conference that we should be having in 2020. And I feel as I'm letting people down. And we're planning it now. We're going to take everything online. And the intentions, I'm just working out how that works. Not for a couple of days. It's going to be a long-term thing. But how we can use these places that brings people to us. But the end goal for all this is how this leads to, you mentioned right at the beginning about ROI, how this does lead to something. People paying for something, people wanting to come back. Because then once people are comfortable, it becomes easier. And it's our role to serve those people that have made that commitment.
Yeah, so true. So true.
I feel good, Mark Masters. You are making me feel good.
My lovely. I don't want you ending a week when you're feeling a little bit lethargic. If we're doing Fresh Fridays on a morning, it's got to be bloody fresh. And it's always a good Friday.
The incredibly fresh Mark Masters, dropping fresh bombs, as we like to call them. We are going to wrap up very shortly. So, guys, if you have any questions for Mark, now is your chance to get them in. We know there's a few people in chat. You know, Yellow Tuxedo's still here. Fiona's here. There's a few others as well dotting around. Guys, get your questions in. You know, Mark's only with us for a few more minutes. And if you've got anything you want to ask him about virtual events, about how you can create these productions, how you can improve face-to-face presentations, never mind digital ones, just get them in and we will do our best to get them answered.
This is I just want to get this bit in as well. The reason we're doing all this as well, like what you're doing here with the video with Fresh Fridays as well, is it all comes down to market share. And what I want to do, and what we can try to do now, is take away from other places that have been not doing it wrong, but might be having their head in the sand. Yeah, maybe, as we talked about, a webinar, someone that maybe just going head first into 40-minute, an hour-long webinars that are so dry. So that presents the opportunity for us all in terms of taking from others. Because then what we do, by what you're doing, is find a way that encourages togetherness, that encourages people belong to something, and we can do it with this sense of warmth. And it's like this. I feel comfortable. We all feel comfortable here, don't we? And all the other guests that come on board. I love all this. So when you're saying, great, we're going to have more we're going to have more questions to ask people. Because you create this nice, comfy, familiar space that people want to come back to as each season progresses and your video trickery goes through the roof.
Liam's video trickery, to be fair. I just literally sit here.
Well, you're very humble. You're very humble, Gareth.
Well, video trickery, there is some more to come in just a second. But before we do that, Fiona Surrey, who we were talking about earlier on, she said, I'd just like to thank you all for your time. It's so important as this supports and inspires others. So you're very welcome, Fiona.
Oh, Fiona's lovely. Well done. Thank you, Fiona. That's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, the final section of the show, Mark Masters, is what we'd like to call Keep It Fresh.
Oh, where is it?
Liam's doing something to an elephant, but I don't know what he's doing.
Where's it gone?
He is... There we go.
Is it
there
up?
we go. Is that done it? I don't think it has.
Oh,
But
hey!
there we go.
Look at that.
Buttons are hard.
Through
Buttons
the
are hard.
blimmin' roof, boys. This is how you do video.
This is it. This is it. You don't want to go anywhere else. So this is the section. We have this phrase, and it actually came out the birth of Fresh Movement, if I'm honest. Well, we talk about keeping it fresh. Now, we're going to, for the benefit of yourself, Mark, and everybody else watching, we're going to let people know a little bit of a inside scoop. Now, keeping it fresh did come from quite a sinister place, but it now has evolved, and it actually means how we keep our mind, body, and soul fresh. That is essentially what we're championing at Fresh Movement. So when we say keep it fresh, it's always something around, you know, a health tip or something to kind of energize yourself or whatever, just to keep yourself fresh. And we would like to know, how do you keep fresh?
This is my biggest discovery this year, right? I've been the gym off, and I discovered only this year the powers of doing HIIT classes. Liam's in.
I'm in.
Right.
I'm in.
I never knew it before. So this is what I do. So I pay my 30 quid every 3 months, whatever, for a thing called Les Mills, right?
Okay.
Les Mills, New Zealand company that is very good at HIIT classes, or as they call it, grit. So I think that is, and I'm telling you this, gents, so okay, as well on top of the running, I am fully endorsing a 30-minute, as Liam well knows, 30 seconds this, and I'm doing me squat, I'm supple. I'm a man in his mid-40s. You wouldn't think it. Because now this activity that I've been taking on board throughout about 2-3 times a week, get it on at home, get it on in the lounge. Boys, I'm not the man that's these days who's sitting down and that. I am like, I don't need the cod liver oil as I'm getting older, because I'm going to be living off doing video workouts. Balls to your Peloton. And that ridiculous amount, we can do better than sitting on a bike and everything else. So yes, I am fully swallowed a massive pill that has the word HIIT exercise and all over it. 30-minute workouts. That's my top tip. So no cold water swimming, as Liam said earlier. Nothing to do with the sea. Brisk runs along Sandbanks Beach to Bournemouth. That would just be arrogant and showing off.
It's just great to hear you don't have crunchy bones and they're well lubricated. That is the thing I took away from that. Like,
Gareth, I'm gonna keep it going. I'm gonna just keep this. I'm just gonna keep this going, eh? No seven.
How often do you do these? How often do you do these HIIT workouts, Mark? Because as
once
you probably
it was on an offer. It was on an offer for February. No, I do it 3 times a week. Should be good this week, but I tell you what, boys. I've been feeling a bit lethargic this week. Not on a Friday morning, because this has been the highlight of the week. But I will try and do it 3 times a week. I will do it with my lovely wife, Kate, tomorrow morning, and then we'll do the HIIT classes. No, we would do that tomorrow. It's great. I generally have a spring, because this is the thing, everybody. One of my ambitions is probably you guys as well. When you get to Fridays, you still want to be sparky. It was happening last year, or at the beginning of all this stuff, when it was getting to Fridays, and it was getting very tired and lethargic. Yeah. And I realised that the simple things such as exercise that doesn't necessarily need a gym can keep us feeling good.
Well, the good thing about it is, Gaz, I forgot to mention, but we will be embodying what you do for the next week, and we'll be putting it on social. So you've recommended doing some hits, we'll be doing it. Thank God I'm already doing it. I just need to document it. But yeah, I'm the same as you. Like I do the same thing with my missus, but she does Joe Wicks, and she's paid for the whole shebang, and I just tag along. And yeah, I'm
because his is the food stuff as well, isn't it? His is menus and
I don't do any of that. I just do a bit of the exercise because I like my ice cream too much. So
of course he does. Who is Joe Wicks to take that away from these small indulgences, Liam?
Exactly. If I exercise, it's better than
Nobody
not
takes
doing
away
anything.
ice cream. I can agree with that one. Nobody takes away ice cream.
No, never.
Well, thank you for that, Mark. We will be embodying that next week, as Liam said. So if you don't follow us on our social and you want to see us suffer, or get buff, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get buff. Let's face it. We are going to be doing your recommendation, which is hit over the next week or so. And guess what? If we enjoy it, we're going to continue it forever. That's what we're going to do.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah. So that's thank you for sharing that. Before we wrap up, Mark, how can people get in touch with you? And before we say that, what a Facebook profile picture you have. Now the hit is definitely paying off, because I have not seen a body on a man your age like that in a long time. It is the body of a god. So
Bless
well
you for
done.
your honesty. So I don't, because I hardly use that Facebook anymore. I use it because we have the You Are the Media Facebook group, so I use that. But on a social, I don't really anymore. Anybody wants to find me, I'm just Marky Masters. That's on LinkedIn and on Twitter as well. And You Are the Media is just have a look at youarethemedia.co.uk and come and join us there and get the Thursday morning email every morning at 6:30 when you wake up.
Good stuff. And your book still available on Amazon?
Yeah, so Content Revolution is still there. So that was published a few years ago. I guess my way I look at the world and what I've carried on really since that book has finished. So my thinking has developed in a lot more since then. Maybe there is time for another book coming up, but things are very busy at the minute. But yeah, Content Revolution is still out there to get.
I'm going to need to pick your brain one day about writing a book. I'm not a very good writer, but I have this ambition to write a book one day. So
it's a very fulfilling thing to create and to publish something. It's maybe the reason you do it because you want to do it, and I can remember, and this is really bad of me, as my wife was delivering, as she delivered my second daughter, I can remember being on her bed in hospital editing my book. So it's just a time thing. It just takes up so much time. But when you're ready for it, it's it's a lovely experience when somebody says, "Hey, I've got it in the post," and it's how we keep momentum going when the book is published. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool.
And it gets you on the Marketing Book podcast. So if it's only worth that, that's the reason you write a book these days, right?
If that becomes a ticket to spend some time with Mr. Burdett, then so be it. They're the rich. That is the gold, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow you just alluded to there, Gareth.
That's the one. That's the one I'll be doing. But Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We came in hot, and you have not disappointed. You are our fresh guest of the week, and you will continue to be that fresh guest until someone knocks you off the podium, which you are in first position.
Great idea.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say, listen, guys, thank you very much for inviting us on, and keep on doing what you're doing here with Fresh Fridays. It's a great initiative. It's something that there's an abundance of good people to come on board as well. And I just want to say, listen, well done. Keep it going, guys. It's a lovely thing to be a part of. It's a nice way to kick back at the end of the week as well. So well played for saying we're going to own Friday mornings.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mark. It's been awesome having you here. And stick around. We'll have a little bit of a chat after the stream. And so thank you so much for everyone tuning in. It's been great to have you here. Make sure to like, comment, and share. We'll be in the comments for a while as well. And massive thank you to Mark. And we shall see you in a couple of weeks for the next Fresh Friday.